So I think fear gets a bad rap. In the New Thought movement, we say that there's only two basic emotions we're capable of, love and fear. And love of us is God, and fear is anything other than of God. And so therefore, if you have any fear in your life, then you're doing something wrong. And I say that's not right. And here's why I say that's not right. Because there's a caveat to that, which is God is in all things. Well, fear is a thing, and therefore God can be there too. Now, some of the biggest changes that we make in our lives, we make because on one hand, we've got a whole bunch of love, we have a whole bunch of, we want this thing, this experience, this doing. And on the other hand, it can be counterbalanced by this fear thing that we don't want. And both can move us in the direction that we actually want to go. I've got a friend this week who has been working 3 jobs and just knowing for months and in one case even years that she needed to let at least one, if not 2 of these things go and concentrate on just this one thing that she really loved. And she's been trying to talk herself into it for about 8 months on one job and about a year on the other job. And she just couldn't quite let herself get it, even though on this end was all this love and all this trust and all this abundance and all this, it's going to be okay if I make this choice. Came the fear part. I'm afraid of letting somebody down. I'm afraid that they need me. I'm afraid this. I'm afraid that. I'm afraid this. And it kept her paralyzed in her fear. Now, we all know how to poke our own buttons, and our spirit guides know how to poke our buttons, and they know how to use a bigger and bigger and bigger 2x4 as we need. And so for her, she wound up getting a tightness in her chest about 2 weeks ago. And it kind of freaked her out. And then with this came this whole spiral of fear of what could be happening, could be going on. Well, instead, what she used it for was to give herself the ability to say, I'm done. Because it was this fear of this thing that might be going on inside was bigger than the fear of letting somebody down that she'd been trying to overcome. And so she went to the boss of job 1 and job 2 and said, you know, I have to let this go. I have to let this go. I've got this tightness in my chest. I'm not sure what's going on with my heart, but it's not good. And so I need to go ahead and get my notice and blah, blah, blah. And the instant she did, this wave of relief came over. And the instant the wave of relief came over, then the heart stuff went away. Now that was God utilizing this fear as a tool to help her get where she wanted to go, but she didn't know how to get there. Often in our own lives, we can look at the fear things in our lives and feel like we're somehow letting ourselves down. Instead, I say, let's look at the tool that could be in that fear. Let's look at the benefit that could be in that fear. Now, with some fears that are maybe, we just had a card party on Friday, and everybody was, hey, this is what's going on. I need some guidance for this and that and these and those. And guidance came, and it was really cool. It was really cool. But when you listen to what most of us, what was going on in our lives, there was a love aspect of it, and there was a fear aspect of it. The little video that we just watched was so profound in so many different ways, and one thing that I really loved about what it said was, if what you believe isn't working, why not try something you don't believe? Just might work. We think we know the way to get over our fears, to get over these things that have been the monkeys on our back. And we can try absolutely everything that we know to try. And sometimes that stuff's still there. Well, try something you didn't know to try. Try something that's outside of your comfort zone. Oftentimes, the thing that we struggle the hardest against is actually the key to us getting over our own fear. My wife and I have been struggling for years with co-parenting with her ex-husband, which anybody who's ever been through that route is just not fun. And always there would be this, I need to do this, I need to appease that, I need to give in, I need to cave in, I need to make sure that we don't rock the boat. Because if we don't, he's threatened to take us to court to get the state involved. And that was the big fear. We do anything to keep that fear from happening. Well, God is so cool that the state finally got involved. And this thing that we feared so much has actually been the key to undoing the karma and the fear in that relationship. Because now when he calls and he says, you have to do da 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 da, we say, court date's on the 30th, let's see what the state has to say. It's out of our hands, it's out of your hands. Whatever they decide, we'll do. But it's no longer you bullying, it's no longer us enabling, it's no longer, the whole game has changed. By simply embracing this thing that we had the most fear around, has provided the key to getting on the other side of it. Now what's going on in your life? What are the things that you're striving to do? And what are the things that you're afraid to do? At the very beginning, that acronym, what was that?
Fear is false evidence appearing real.
False evidence appearing real. Ooh, I like that one. False evidence appearing real. We can make this fear stuff so real in our minds. Just as, with the same exact power, we can make anything else, dreams, appear just as real in our mind. We can take this little thing of fear and turn it into an absolute mountain. Can you go back to those quotes one more time? Because there's a couple of them there that are just really, really good. Do the thing we fear, and the death of fear is certain. Do the thing we fear, and the death of fear is certain. Now, in our experience with her ex and with this court thing, we're finally doing the thing we fear. And now the fear is completely going away. We all, everybody around this room, deserves huge pats on the back. Because there is a trail of 1,000 fears we've overcome. We've overcome them in different ways. And they could be little bitty fears to, oh my goodness, big fears. And we've either overcome them or we're in the process of overcoming them. And that's cool. That's cool. Think about, for just a second, the fears that you've overcome in your life. How many people, just show of hands, moved somewhere at some time that just freaked them out? I can't believe that I'm going to move to this place, this house, this part of the country, this whatever. I'm going to make this move, and it's spooky as can be. But we did it anyway. Then we got there and went, dude, this isn't so bad. This is kind of cool. How many people at one point took a job that they said, oh, I don't know about this. Boy, this is spooky as can be. And we did it anyway. How many people got into a relationship that they might get hurt and did it anyway?
Who hasn't?
Who hasn't? Exactly. There's 1,000 things that we've all done that have already overcome fears, and every single time it's worked out. Every single time. And so we look at the fears that are going on in our mind right now, and we say, but this is a huge fear, and this is big, and this is big. So is everything in the rearview mirror. So is every big fear we've already had and overcome. It was big until it wasn't. Do the thing we fear, and the death of fear is certain. How much more energy does it take to hold on to this energy of fear versus how little energy it takes in reality to let it go? Let's say that I've got a backpack with 80 pounds of rocks in it, and I carry this thing everywhere. How much energy does that take? If I take the backpack off and put it on the ground, how much energy does that take, comparatively speaking? A whole bunch less. Why? Why don't we do it? If it's that easy to do, if it's so much easier to do to let go of it than to carry it around, and if our past dictates and predicts our future, that every single time we've let that fear go, it's turned out cool. Every single time. Then why don't we do it? Why do we give it so much power? When we have something that's fearful, where do we feel it? Right there, right in my gut. Oh, right in my gut. Why do you think that is? I think that's God giving us a roadmap that, from a chakra standpoint, this is the solar plexus chakra, which is the center of the self. self-love, self-worth, self-respect, all the self stuff lives right here. And it connects all the lower chakras with creativity and being grounded and basic survival stuff to the upper chakras of feeling and communicating and intuition and connection with God. It's the bridge between our lower self and our higher self, and we feel it right here. Because this fear stuff isn't in alignment with who we are as a spark of God, as one of God's kids. It's like if our dad was Bill Gates and said, go to the mall and go shopping, it's on me, and handed him a credit card, then we wouldn't have fear about what we're putting in a shopping cart. Because Dad's got this covered. We're going to use Dad's card to swipe it through. The same thing is true with fear. Our Heavenly Father, God, says, I got this covered. Use my card. Swipe it. That's done. Next. What else? That's done. Next. Because when we truly understand that God has our back, when we understand that our guides and angels have our back, and our support system of folks who love us have our back, and that every single time we face a fear and overcome it, it's turned out for the better, it makes letting go easier. When we start to feel it here, that tension of those butterflies in the stomach, strengthen that chakra. It's yellow like the sun. Drink yellow, eat yellow, be yellow, see yellow, use stones that are yellow. Whatever it is, yellow helps to bring this chakra into alignment. And as this chakra, as this energy center, this me chakra gets stronger, it makes more fears go away. Makes more fears go away. Now, why? Very, very, very seldom in connections do we ever focus on the negative. We're always reaching for the positive and focusing on the positive, and the positive absolutely rocks, and that's where we spend most of our time. But occasionally we'll have something that's chaining us to something. Like if we have big chains that are tying me to a rock, but I'm trying to move forward, and I'm just wearing a rut in the ground, that we have to look at those chains and kind of snap some of those so that walking forward just be much easier. So that we can live the life that we were designed to live and be the people that we want to be. One of the quotes in that slide said, you already have every quality you hope to possess. You already have every single quality that you hope to possess. You know, we know these things mentally, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. We know these things. We affirm these things all the time because they're true and they're powerful. And they're powerful until the ego steps in and says, but I am my story. And part of my story is my past, and part of my past is this fear. So if I let go of the fear, then I let go of a little piece of who I am. And then who would I be? Then who would I be? I don't know, let's go find out. Make you a deal. I'll help you, you help me. Right? We're all in this together. It's a team sport. We think back to when we were kids, and when your mother would say, wait till your father gets home. Oh, comes the fear. What's going to happen? And our minds would just go nuts about being drawn and quartered and horses, and, you know, he's going to kill me, he's going to kill me. I just know it. Most of the time, it wasn't so bad. It was huge here. It was huge here. Imagine if God gave us all a get out of fear free card. And whenever fear popped up, we could just swipe the card. What would you do? What would you do today differently? What would you do this week differently? We look at the people who have a terminal illness and they say, I know I have 6 months to live, so it's changed my whole perspective. I'm going to do all these things differently. And we look at the fish agree. And when we look at the things that, you know, from folks who have had near-death experiences, been technically dead for X amount of time, and what they've experienced, and what they come back and tell us, or what we see in our own past life regressions or between life regressions, when we get to remember what it was like to be in that in-between lives place, There's no fear. It's a construct of the mind. And part of it can be our old belief system. So I challenge you this week to really examine your belief system. Put against the mirror of truth, the map of the past that shows everyone that's been in the rearview mirror is already overcome. And that the entire universe is pulling for your success. And even if it turns out bad, quote unquote, to let the fear win, to say the fear was right, because we have a universe. It's amazing the way this works. But we're designed to be told, you're right. How many things in life have we done, whether it was good, bad, right, wrong, whatever, that we say, well, I knew it was going to be that way. I mean, I hoped and I prayed and I wanted it to be this way, but I knew it was going to be that way. I just knew it. But you're right. You're right. Okay, well, what if our right wasn't the way we wanted it to be? At least we cleared it off our head. The biggest risks in life that we take, maybe a marriage, maybe a relationship, maybe a move, maybe a this, maybe a that, maybe a job, maybe a career, maybe how we spend our day, maybe how we handle a particular situation. We spend so much time in our mind with it that to do it, even if it didn't turn out the way we wanted it to be, at least it's done. At least we know. At least we know, and now we're free to go create and think about new stuff. It's almost like a computer needs to be rebooted every once in a while. When Mary and I moved to Florida, we were scared. Never been to Florida. Well, she'd never been to Florida. I'd only been out here once or twice to see the folks. And said, man, gosh, we don't know how it's going to be. We don't know what kind of house we're going to find, what kind of friends we're going to have, what kind of church we're going to go to, what kind of this, what kind of that, what kind of this, what kind of that. So much fear around it. Well, we came out here and it rocked. But that wasn't always the case. Let me tell you a little story. Several years ago, my wife and I, in our infinite wisdom, decided we were going to buy a house on eBay in Warren, Ohio. Sight unseen. Based on 8 little pictures on the internet. We bought a 4,000 square foot house for $11,000. We loaded up all of our stuff in 4 trucks, had friends drive them, caravaned, 2,000 miles across the country to look at this gem, to which we went, oh, that's not so good. Oh, that's darn right spooky. The floors are at these kind of angles. The siding is missing in parts. Somebody decided they needed the copper piping better and more than the house did. The neighbors, you could almost see them placing bets on how long we'd stay, on if we'd even make it, on what our life expectancy would be. And we were looking like, well, this sucks. This is really not good, but all the signs told me and all this stuff I was getting told me this was a darn good idea, and she was a total heck yeah, let's go do this, baby. Walked in that house and started bawling. Oh, what did I do? Oh my God. I looked at what was then my girlfriend, now my wife, and just tear-filled eyes and tears streaming. And she was just waiting for the other shoe to drop, because in her previous marriage, in her previous relationship, if anything went wrong, it was her fault and she had to own all of it. And instead, what she got was me going, well, that sucks, doesn't it? And she's like, what do we do now? I'm like, I don't know, but it doesn't involve living here. I said, but heck, you know, we packed up our stuff and we've carried it 2,000 miles. We took it for a little walk around the country. Any place else you'd want to live? It'd be real easy at this point to drive there and go make it happen. And she said, you know, the Black Hills of South Dakota is just beautiful. Now, we had just come from Valentine, Nebraska, which is roughly like 4 hours from the Black Hills of South Dakota. Now, after driving 2,200 miles in the wrong direction, we pulled a big U-turn, drove 2,400 miles back to Rapid City, South Dakota, and we moved in and we lived there and we loved it and blah, 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 blah. And in our minds, we had done something wrong. that it was bad. We took the risk. Now the risk could have turned out really good. The risk turned out incredible. Absolutely incredible. Because from that moment, she never worried about making a mistake. Or I never worried about making a mistake that we're going to be browbeaten by the other. If we could get through that, we put the thing back on eBay, and we sold it to somebody else who was a fixer-upper handyman guy who had a whole crew, and ended up being a great investment property for him. So it was a win-win. And it undid so much fear by walking through the fear of messing up. And the messing up didn't end up being messing up. It wasn't in the outcome of the what happened. Based on that experience, that was our first house we ever owned together for all of a week and a half. But it opened up the energy to owning this house, which opens up the energy to owning the next house, to doing the next thing, to overcoming all these fears. So remove the judgment of the things that say, but what if it's foolish? I bet it's not more foolish than buying a house on eBay in Warren, Ohio, sight unseen. And if it is, kudos. Come tell your story. Because we can all learn from it. We can all say, well, it wasn't as goofy as that. It wasn't as goofy as that. And this is why shows like Jerry Springer do well, because we can all look, no matter what's going on in our life, and say, but it's not as goofy as that. Right? Because it doesn't matter. We take this thing too serious. Fear is all about serious. I need to outthink it, outbelieve it, outdo it, outperform it, out. Huh. This guy's saying, this feels right in the moment, and I'm going to go for it, because I know the whole universe supports me in doing it. So I'm going to do it. If it works out the way that I anticipated, rock on. And if it doesn't, I bet there's a trail of unseen blessings in this that I wouldn't have even known to use this thing as a tool to overcome this, and this, which led to this, and this, which ended up being the biggest blessing in my life. The things that scare the heck out of us. My wife was scared to death when she got divorced. Everybody who's ever got divorced probably has gone through that. And that sucks. And I'm sorry that she went through those feelings and those emotions. But if she didn't, I sure couldn't have married her. She wouldn't be pregnant with my daughter. I'm going to show up here in the next week and a half or so. Look at how much different is because she chose to walk through a fear. Even though it was a fear, and even though it was real, and even though it wasn't necessarily easy, in that case, it opened up the whole rest of life. The fears that you've already walked through have opened up the whole rest of your life already. Whatever fears you feel may be holding you back right now. 1, don't take them so serious. 2, know that the whole universe supports you. 3, false evidence appearing real. False evidence appearing real. 99 times out of 100, it's not as bad as we thought it would be. And 100 times out of 100, it's got unforeseen blessings. Even if it's as silly as buying a house on eBay in Warren, Ohio. So this week, I encourage you to challenge yourself, challenge your belief systems. Look around. What are the things that you fear? Write them down. Write a list. Here are the things that I fear. And then look and say, is that even realistic? Am I carrying around fears from 30 years ago that don't even have a bearing on today? Am I ready to let this go? God, I'd like some help letting that go. What would happen if I walked through this anyway? And do I feel supported by the entire universe? Imagine when your kids conquer a fear and how proud you are. Oh, that was a scary thing for you and you did it anyway, and blah, blah, blah. I'm just so proud of you and I'll help you every step of the way. Sometimes I picture God in that same stance. Or our spirit guides or a choir of angels applauding like, yeah, dude, finally did it. Yay. Yay, Darcy finally did it. Bob finally did it. Belly finally. Go down the room. We can all finally do it. Finally give ourselves permission to live the life we want to live. And the only thing standing in our way are these goofy things called fears. That have only as much power as we give them and exist only until we face them. And always turn out better